Peter, we've come together again here with our faces visible to our to the shock and dismay of many, because there's a niche interest you and I have that what is a YouTube channel for except to express our opinions about it, right?
Absolutely. Um, and is it really a niche thing at this point? Because the internet's on fire about Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2. And
It is both
this
niche
is
and
the
not niche. It's a strange cultural artifact to the specific video game that this is a sequel to, and uh, it's become more of a topic, I think, because of the consequences of changes to video games and pricing, and what customer expectations have been versus the direction things are going in. But it's confounded by this specific game and the absolutely tortured existence it has had to try and reach a point where it gets released.
tortured existence in the shadow of one of the highest lauded RPGs of all time.
Yes.
Because Bloodlines came out in 2006, I want to say. And it was a very interesting release because it was set up to come out by Troikia using the Valve Source engine, which is
Yes.
what Half-Life 2 came out on. And because of contracts and the situation regarding Source, the rule was that Half-Life 2 had to come out first. And because Valve got hacked and the code was leaked, it set back the release on Half-Life 2 ridiculous amounts of months. So they had Bloodlines 1 ready to ship, and this thing had to sit on the shelf. And did I ever tell you the story about this?
Continue.
All right. So I was working at CompUSA. I was a floor sales guy,
Ooh,
and I
yes. I
knew,
loved CompUSA. Yes.
yeah. So I was just stocking the shelves, and we knew that Half-Life 2 was coming out. And we were hype, and there were a couple different box art variants for Half-Life 2. One was G-Man, the other was I think
Gordon.
Freeman,
Yeah.
obviously. So I'm facing the merchandise on the wall and putting all these little boxes out, and we are just hype. Everybody in the building is hype about Half-Life, and then I put my hand in the box and I pull the next unit out, and I look down to where to put it, and all of a sudden I'm holding Vampire Bloodlines. And I mean, that was right. That was 5 years into me LARPing, right?
Yeah. Same.
So I am keyed in on. I am ready to go for some excellent vampire game, and I've played. God, what was the one where you're the Diablo knockoff was
Redemption.
Vampire Redemption. Played that, whatever. All of a sudden, I'm holding it. There was no announcement on this thing coming out, zero fanfare because Troika had run out of promotional money, and I'm just holding this game that I've been waiting years for. And I'm like, shit, I guess I'm buying two games. And I ran and I bought one right there. And that was Bloodlines. Bloodlines came out in the shadow of this institutional revolution that was Half-Life 2. It squeaked it out. Troika was already basically dead at that point.
Yes, it was. Quite famously
Uh,
because of its inability to support the product post launch, which became
because
part
they
of the
couldn't ship
legend.
it.
Yeah.
This thing, they put all this money and they had no sales to back it.
They also couldn't really
So
finish development. It's a notoriously a lot of cut content in the game because I said, like you said, they ran out of money. The studio was essentially closed by the time it actually came out, and there was just stuff on the disc that just didn't make the final cut that they were actually able to assemble before the cash ran dry.
and this was an engine that nobody had any experience using other than Valve, right?
Correct.
The only other game out there was Counter-Strike Source, and there wouldn't be more Source games for a while. So it was a rough ass launch, and even for years to come, if you wanted to play the game the right way, you had to use unofficial patches. But it was an amazing game, man. It pushed so many envelopes and new storytelling methods. It was a fucking amazing game with a cult-like status for a reason.
It
And
was.
whether you liked Vampire the Masquerade or not, you could play this game and be like, wow, this is how you do an open. Nah, yeah, I guess it's an open world, right?
It is. It's like I likened it to like Oblivion for edgy goths. When you think about like the era of the games that was coming out,
You
the
didn't have the massive map of Grand Theft Auto or anything, but there was a lot of
there was still a
surface area
lot
you
to
could go
yeah,
back.
absolutely, between the downtown map, the Santa Monica map, like they were
Mhm.
larger than they seemed. There was things to just kind of explore, and like you and I was also keyed in at the maximum level to our our hobby of being vampire LARPers at the time, and I also had played Redemption, which is a very mid Diablo 1 clone and does
Yeah.
not hold up to the test of time whatsoever. Not worth revisiting.
No.
So with very limited sort of media out there for this pop culture franchise that we were in kind of enmeshed in, it was a revelation, not only because the game was good, not only because it really was able to blend RPG elements, shooter elements, and all of the supernatural like game mechanics of the Vampire the Masquerade setting, mood, the music, the ability, like how things changed depending on what clan you played, because you could play a Malkavian and you were crazy, so like things were remarkably different and how you interacted with them because of that, or an Nosferatu where you couldn't be seen, so you had to use the sewers all the time, and capture all of that in a single cohesive package that, despite its rough edges, despite the fact you really did need to use unofficial patches because there was no actual support for the game itself that existed, it was fantastic. It served, I think, as a very strong gateway for people to find out about the IP that had no idea it existed.
And it's referenced in a lot of other games to come, like a source of inspiration.
Yeah.
And just lauded as terrific. It was a great example of a excellent game and great story and cool gameplay elements can shine past bugs, right?
Absolutely.
And people have feverishly wanted more of that game ever since. And boy, what a colorful history White Wolf and Vampire the Masquerade, as far as video games, have had since then. Because of Bloodlines 1, you had White Wolf get acquired by CCP.
So let's pause for a second before we give too much of a history lesson. We should clarify, this game was not a success when it initially came out. It became a cult classic. It became one of those games that just sold all the time, especially on Steam. Steam introducing like that into the ecosystem, and the price dropping to a level where it was like $15 to buy it for a long time. That was like
to gift it.
Yeah, like it became something that, to the amazement of the people who owned the rights to it, just sold constantly. People loved the game, and it became a financial success over the long term. And that's what ultimately led to a lot more interest in the Vampire the Masquerade IP in video games. And it led to what I would call a 15-year 20 year now, of almost 20 years of the most comic mismanagement I have ever seen as it relates to a pop culture property. This thing got bought and repackaged in an attempt to try and recapture this magic in every possible wrong way you can think of. And it started, as you said, with CCP, if you want to continue from there.
CCP, the name behind the Microsoft Excel space simulator.
EVE Online.
EVE Online. With a Uncle Scrooge grade money bin worth of cash.
Unlimited money. Like, EVE at its peak was printing money, and that game was just lock, stock, and barrel owned by one company that they literally didn't have any idea of what to do with it anymore.
So they bought this thing with the intention of developing an MMO, and they began marketing this MMO aggressively, and the fan base was rabid for it because everything was being likened to Bloodlines. Cool, great, we're on board. That never happened, and we can go into a deeper talk about what's wrong with the fan base and why this is a cursed property that will molest everybody it touches and leave them...
I mean, there's a story I'm going to tell here in a second as it relates to some of this that I have personal involvement in. But the first attempt, CCP bought it. They tried to make an MMO, and they tried to do this kind of at like peak World of Warcraft period. So like the thought was that the World of Darkness / Vampire, the next thing we need to do is an MMO. CCP makes an MMO. They try to move in that direction. They spend years upon years upon years trying to develop this product, and they get essentially nowhere before it finally gets binned. We personally know people who are involved in the beta test of the game. They said that like there are pieces of it that looked like it really would work, and parts of it that really like captured the magic of the setting, but for the most part it was just a ridiculous use of the IP because it was just like this combat focused MMO where you're like trying to control territory. It tried to do that like hardcore PvP thing that CCP is known for, but in a way that just never came together in a coherent fashion and would have no real native audience. Like, who would play this? Eventually,
Yep.
CCP decides they need to unload this thing because they've done nothing with it, you know, aside from publish.
We're not going to name names, right? Because we're not allowed to say these names.
I'm not going to name anyone's proper name whatsoever, nor am I going to name the companies of the story in which I am personally involved, because I know that that's information that is protected. But over the course of the attempt to sell Vampire the Masquerade to someone who could buy it, there was a major video game company, one of the largest in the world, known for their ability to create third-person action RPGs, that was interested in purchasing it for the expressed purpose of making a Bloodlines 2, again, because that game, to this day, is regarded as extraordinarily strong and a hallmark of the genre. Representatives of this company went to a major Vampire the Masquerade fan event, at which both of us had attended.
I was not at that.
Oh, that's right. You weren't there. I was there. And the representative of this major company observed the, shall we say, difficult personalities that were involved in the fandom of Vampire the Masquerade, including an incident in which my beloved wife was present, where there was a very difficult discussion that was taking place due to some interdynamics between said people that had been boiling over for some time. And after observing this event, that company decided that this was not an IP that they wanted and were not going to pursue purchasing it. And so it sat and lingered and continued to devalue further and further and further with no real project that's ever going to come from it. And ultimately, CCP had to fire sale it, and they sold it to a company I don't think anyone saw coming, which was Paradox, which is most known for deep strategy games like Europa Universalis, Hearts of Iron 4, Stellaris, Victoria, and not making the game that everyone wanted, which was Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2.
People celebrated Paradox picking it up.
It was a big company.
Because they were just happy to see a video game that's putting stuff out, getting this thing out there. And they brought in Hardsuit Labs and began this deeply flawed development cycle. And they had all the right names involved. And, you know, this guy was from the first game. And here's all these people that were met to varying degrees of fan excitement.
Who was the fingerless gloves guy? The fingerless gloves guy. Who was that?
Whoever.
Yeah, like just stereotypically, like exactly the kind of guy you think would be making the damn thing. Fingerless gloves,
and wanted to, right?
Yeah.
Like here's cosmetic packs for different pricing levels. Here's the pre-orders. I pre-ordered it. I had that pre-order sitting on file for years and years. The top tier one. I bought it without thinking twice. I was like, $100, whatever. I don't care. I'm going to do it. Eventually I got that Steam Deck and I needed the money, so I refunded and put the credit in on that. Like many people did.
Yeah.
Because this thing looked like it was going to be vaporware. And here's the important part about Vampire. And it's an issue that they continue to run into. Vampire the Masquerade was made for a early 90s audience in a time of the world that does not exist anymore. And
there's no solving this problem. Like, time moved on from this product in a way that where the culture didn't want to accept it anymore.
This is the oak stake that goes in the heart of Vampire the Masquerade, and it will forever hinder it, is they are trying to capture a millennial and a Gen Z audience that, by and large, has an incompatibility with the story and the world of darkness at its core that launched that property into being something cool. And that is a conversation that we can have a very deep talk on. But in the end, it leaves you with, here's the stuff that we want to do or that we should do. We cannot do because it's now considered problematic for various reasons.
Yep.
How do we steer this thing in a direction that is going to be attractive to the new audience without driving the old audience away? And I can't answer that question, and I don't think the property holders can really answer that
They've
question.
struggled. Paradox has struggled with it just as much as CCP has. They've tried to
I'm not
keep.
even talking about the video game portion. I'm talking
Yeah,
about just
I'm talking
as
about
a
the books
role-playing
too.
game.
Like trying to keep the game going as a product that existed in its core competency, which was a tabletop role playing game. They have struggled mightily to find a way to make it resonant and relevant. They've gotten a bit of a lifeline in doing like live play stuff via Twitch. Especially COVID kind of helped them out a little bit because it was a product
Absolutely.
that was niche and had not been explored before by a lot of the people that were making their way in that space. But it ran into the same problem, which is at its core, the world of darkness is a place where violent and terrible things happen. That's supposed to be a game about a conflict between your conscience and your inner monstrosity, and how the monstrosity typically finds ways to win despite your best efforts. And that's not something that appeals to the present Zoomer gaming demographic. That's like a Gen X angst, millennial angst thing. And it doesn't exist amongst the Zoomers. And also, they're more Puritan, frankly, about elements that are risque. And as the vampire does explore that and wants to, these are blood-sucking, sensual creatures, ultimately. And it's not really their speed.
Man, I'd love to do a bigger talk on this because that's World of Darkness and Vampire was put out of like, what if you were the bad guy? What
Yeah.
if you were the monster? And there is just an unwillingness in the current young generation to even pretend being the bad guy and to pretend do things that are not good or just. And that has been one of the major issues with like how they present the media at this point, is that you are perpetually the good guy trying to shine through, and it's this becoming this traditional storytelling format where you're the one kernel of good fighting corruption and bringing justice to the world around you. And it's like, that is really the antithesis of what this thing was. Anyways, they can't get the tabletop game down the right way. And you take all these problems and you pile on top of just trying to get a video game out.
Yeah, and by the way, a kind of video game you've never made, so you've had to outsource it to a Hardsuit Labs, a company no one had ever heard of, trying to handle what is supposed to be a major first-person action RPG game, which is a tough development ask for anybody.
Every pair of eyeballs in the industry on you. This game was supposed to come out. Just think about this. Bloodlines 2 under Hardsuit was supposed to come out in the same release window as Cyberpunk.
Yes.
And it was hilarious then, and we talked about it. I was like, man, they got fucked the first time by one of the best games ever made, Half-Life 2. And they had to live in Half-Life 2 shadow, and it killed Troikia, right?
It did.
And now you're going to come out against the next best game that has ever come out, Cyberpunk 2077, which hilariously had its window pushed back, which is like, oh man, this is going to F Bloodlines again because now, it's moving back. Like they got in this war of who's pushing back further, right?
Right.
And Cyberpunk would come on to completely shit the bed with its launch, but tell this Cinderella story of making a major comeback and turning into, at this point, as of August 24th, 2025, one of the best video games ever out there.
Correct.
With the help of Phantom Liberty and just all the fan service quality of life patches that they've put out since. And now we're on the precipice of them putting out Bloodlines 2 in October. And it is so clear that it is going to be the exact opposite. That this turkey is going to come out and belly flop. It's going to piss everybody off. Everyone who has made their game since then and is anxiously waiting to see what Bloodlines 2 looks like in all their warm, fuzzy stories about their incredible experiences playing the first game and how that influenced them as a game designer and blah, blah, blah. And this fucking thing is going to come out wretched, and it is going to be kicked down the road as hard as it possibly can. And
we're not even touching on the fact that Hardsuit Labs got fired from making it, and the development essentially restarted like 3 years ago. So this is a Duke Nukem forever level of development hell that this game went through. I think we both presumed it was going to die when that decision was made, but evidently the gambler, not the gambler's fallacy, the sunk cost fallacy doesn't exist to Paradox, and they decided we have to do something. We've invested so much time, energy, and money into buying this IP and trying to develop this game that's doing nothing is not acceptable. And so they got a new developer and have forced marched this thing as quickly as they could manage to some kind of releasable state so that they can claim, all right, we have finally done something with this IP. That again, it has been 20 years of it being mismanaged, bought, held on to, failed shit. Like they tried to do a battle royale game. You remember that? They farmed out.
I was just joking about that yesterday.
Blood
I
Hunt.
Completely forgot about it.
Yeah, like they farmed that shit out, and that came up, lived, and died in a half second with the battle royale craze. Like, oh, let's do Fortnite with Vampire. I actually played it for 20 minutes. I'm like, this is not. What is this? Because it was free.
Childhood. You're touching my childhood. Stop it.
There was like
some visual novels they put out.
Yeah, there was some
there's been even those are buggy as fuck, man. What was the one Swan Song?
Yes,
which was basically a Telltale game essentially, and even that thing was buggy as hell. Like just
legitimately, the best game they put out was a VR Wraith the Oblivion game. Like you want to talk about a
piece?
Did you play that? Yes, it's very good, but it is 45 minutes, and it's for Wraith the Oblivion, probably the least known of the World of Darkness games. Like, I love Wraith the Oblivion. Wraith the Oblivion's my favorite. Me and 6 other people know what it is. So, it's they need, I guess, to prove that this wasn't a total waste of their time to get this game out. And like you said, like, no, I think the expectation is it's going to be bad. And now they're talking about how what limited content is going to be in there, like a third of it's going to be paywalled with a day one DLC. So you're going to pay $60 for a game where it has 2/3 of the content, and you've got to pay an extra $20 if you want all of it. So $80 for the full.
Paradox is going to take a black eye for all the mishandling that CCP did as soon as they put Bloodlines in the water. That's what you can call this this video.
Bloodlines in the water. I like it.
And for better or for worse, they are now the company that's going to launch this thing. They are the ones that all the stuff you're saying, 20 years in the making, this and that mismanagement, like this is all going to fall on Paradox's shoulders, even if they deserve all of the mishandling or not. But I think it's clear to them that this thing is going to be limited in its revenue generation capacity, that it's going to get panned and shit on, and it's going to be a black eye that I don't know if they'll ever outlive. And it's clear now the strategy is make as much money as possible, as fast as possible. Before I tell you what, this thing's going to be on sale all over the place on Steam at deep discount. So you've got multiple price tiers. This is coming out with the base game, and then there's a pre-order mid-tier that doesn't, that's like the only exists to make the expensive tier look like a good value proposition.
Right. And
that top tier, let's name names here. Let me get this thing up in Steam.
Yeah. The predatory pricing thing is where it's actually managed to breach the mainstream again, which is like the last thing you would want everyone to be talking about your pending release, right? Like, oh, the nostalgia's back. It's October. It's gonna spooky season. Like Oblivion just had a remaster. So people are thinking about that era of gaming a bit more. I've seen people talk about Bloodlines in that sort of early 2000s, like peak open world era. Why are people talking about Bloodlines 2? Because you're going to charge $1 million for a game that's probably going to feel like ass.
Because the Switch 2 just came out, and Nintendo decided that video games are now going to cost $60 plus.
Yeah, right? 60's the floor. Yeah,
so you've got the pre-purchase pricing on this thing, $60 for the bottom. The deluxe is $70, and then you've got your premium at $90. When I'm saying premium, that is the actual real game with all of the content that was developed in-house.
Correct.
And what you're getting at $60 is a stripped down, essentially false floor. Because everybody who's coming in to pre-purchase this game is rabid, and they want it, and they're going to pay that $90. And what I saw when they finally put this information out there, put such a wild hair up my ass because you've got a game again that should have released 5 years ago
Yeah.
and has been in a complete state for God knows how long. Because I'm guarantee you they're using everything that's left over from Hardsuit. They didn't start from absolute complete beginning.
Like, I mean, there's no way the game would be out if they didn't. They had to have used whatever it is that Hardsuit had that they took possession of.
Because Chinese Room took over, was it like a year ago?
No, it's been a few years now. It was like
it
was like 2022 when the stake went in the heart of Hardsuit Labs. So it's been a few years. And I remember last year was big because it was the first like real sign of like, yeah, actually this game is still being made and it is going to come out next year. Like that announcement happened. And everyone was stunned. Like, oh, you're not gonna just let it die? Okay.
This thing came out, the Hardsuit Labs version. I bought the pre-order March 23rd, 2019. I did the Bloodlines 2 Blood Moon edition, $89. So they kept that the same. But you're at the bottom end, the $60 one, you're charging 2025 pricing. For a game that again should have been like 2020, 2021 release. Like very predatory right off the jump, and that there told me that these guys don't give a fuck and they need to recoup as much money as fast as possible. And then you get into the clans. So clans are basically the different classes for all intents and purposes that you
Correct.
can play as. There's less clans coming out overall than what the base game had. There's major clans missing that I have to assume they were going to use as some sort of a paid content DLC down the road like Nosferatu.
Exactly.
And then you took the Lasombra, which I've never really seen available for play as a clan. It's a real edgelord fan favorite. Very in vogue right now. The current LARP edition out there is version 5 V5. They have, just to go deep in the lore here for a minute, the Sabbat has fallen, the cam's not looking great, and a lot of the Sabbat has been absorbed into the Camarilla, and the Sabbat is really highlighted as the Zemis and the Lasombra, where they were.
And the Lasombra basically jumped ship over to the Camarilla.
Lots of people did. I mean, there's Zemis over there too, I think. But hey, here's this thing now as a very viable clan to play. We're going to put that in the main game. Wow, how cool. There's going to be a Tenebration. How cool. Everybody loves that. Oh, we're going to do this day one DLC.
For the Toreador and the Lasombra. The clan for the chicks and the clan for the edgelords. The two most popular.
I get them jerking you around with the Lasombra and cutting that content off of the game and trying to further monetize on it. But Toreador is like the base of the base. Brujah, Toreador, Venture. That is Vampire the Masquerade. That is what the lion's share of clans out in play should be. There's
Gothic punk thugs are Brujah. Hypnotic, deeply charismatic suit-wearing vampires are Ventru. And the hot art hose are the Toreador. Like that, those are the three pillars of what people know about the IP, and you're taking one of them and saying, "No, you're gonna have to pay extra."
This is special.
Yeah.
And to not even have the common decency to launch this fucking game and then 2 months or 3 months or even 1 month later say, "Hey, this is hot off the press. Look, we finished these other things. Here's DLC."
Yeah, on disc DLC, as they used to call this.
$30 extra.
Yep.
You're working this thing in as day one DLC to such an obvious piece of cut content and such a disservice and bad faith effort out of them. And I saw it, and here's where our video should really be beginning now. I don't know if you want to cut this thing out.
The first 28 minutes of prelude.
That can be Patreon. I was so deeply offended as a consumer and a longtime fan of this property that I was disgusted by the pricing, and I was disgusted by this day one DLC for something I knew was going to be a buggy fucking mess.
Oh yeah,
and we can get into like the bad other stuff and the cut core content that this thing has. Just this level of fan abuse off the rip, and I've been nothing but delighted to see all of the people out there on the Facebook groups and subreddits and everything else that are just open face calling out what this is, and just massive amounts of outrage mirroring my own. to the point where it is so clear that this thing is going to come out under duress, that long-term established media shill legacy access news sites like Polygon, right?
Yeah.
Which Polygon always loves a modern audience intended feel good, overthrow the man.
Yeah, which I guess is the broad expectation that people such as you and I have. This game's going to disappoint us because it's not going to actually be a Vampire the Masquerade product that resembles the source material in a meaningful way. We've already accepted that this is going to be, DEI'd sufficiently for modern sensibilities. And
which, to be fair,
it's also going to be ass.
Yeah. Vampires always lent itself to gender equality and all that other stuff.
Oh,
right? All the books
yeah.
are written.
Yeah.
So I mean, the runway is there to tell these stories, and embrace those stories, and they're stories I exist. And there was an expectation, I think, that, like you just said, that we knew it was going to be there, and it was going to be there at high levels and whatever. Polygon, which eats that stuff up with a spoon, Polygon's out there in the streets MFing this thing.
Yep.
And for them to come out and openly sabotage this thing with criticisms before it's out tells me that everybody in the media community can tell that this thing's going to fucking suck, that there's no point in going down with the ship, and it's now a race to see who can cut this thing the deepest for street cred before it actually launches, and be able to say, no, we are fair and clear reporting. Look,
it's a perfect punching bag, because they're trying to rebuy some credibility as it relates to an audience that has abandoned them. And this is a game that is going to be just so objectively bad that it's kind of free for them to try and regain credibility by turning it into a punching bag. It's not like it doesn't have like a born and shut audience that is going to like defend it or create friction over it. It is something that has been beloved but is still very niche and didn't really have like a particular identification with a piece of the gaming subculture. And so it's a sort of cowardly out for them to be able to motherfuck this game when they have passed on motherfucking other things.
They have a built-in fan base that should be rabidly defending them. And instead, Paradox has gone through while they have all been sleeping and waiting for Christmas Eve and slinked in with a knife and slit everybody's throat with this fucking day one DLC. They've poison pilled themselves to destroy any zealous credibility that they may have had waiting for them. And now it is just going to be open season on watching this thing get punched in the dick.
It isn't sort of the perfect World of Darkness ending, though, when you really think about it. It's a cursed property. And like you said, there's something about it that nothing can ever truly work out. It can never find a happy ending. The beast always consumes it. It's poetic in its own way.
You take core, so that's just like the background of like how fucked this thing is in terms of like a business practice standpoint and delays. And then you look at the game itself, and even maybe this game could have been cool if they didn't put it out as Bloodlines 2. But when you've got cut content and features such as there's no character creation in 2025, you're forced playing the singular character, which I don't know if there's a male version, but like, okay, cool. You're gonna tell me I have to be Commander Shepard, and there's
even Commander Shepard was something you could customize. You could
customize it, sure, but also there was Fem Shep and Guy Shep, so you had two separate playthroughs you could do. I'm only hearing audio off of one. Again, Cyberpunk, right? Full customized character. It's using the same shared audio files. This thing, I'm not seeing any of that. No guns.
Wait, what? No guns?
All of the weapons that you can wield are done so with telepathy. They didn't.
Whoa! I'm behind. What? The game most famous for the way it was able to meld in a compelling way for its time, gunplay, melee combat, and the use of supernatural powers is just not doing two of them.
All the vampires have telepathy. I'm sorry, telekinesis, and weapons are just floated around in front of you. Mm-hmm. So you can go up and punch, and there's like cool punchy stuff. But I don't know if they didn't want to pay to render gun holding animations and line stuff up there. But there's this ridiculous this telekinesis throwing thing.
Oh
No
God.
stats. No stat checks on dialogue. So, there's no diplomacy or intimidation to
What's the
level up.
RPG element then? What the fuck are you even doing?
No inventory, no quest log.
What?
No hacking, no lockpicking, no non-Asferatu, no gangrel, no frenzy, no humanity mechanics. Like, what are you doing?
What is it then?
Who are you making?
There's nothing there.
The amount of
It's a gothic walking
Cyberpunk
simulator.
20
What the fuck are you doing?
It's a gothic Cyberpunk 2077 clone. Like, the part about there's a Malkavian elder that's disincorporated or disembodied that lives in your head and gives you running commentary a la Johnny Silverhand. I'm not buying this fucking thing, dude. And I don't even know if I have it in me to like I'll pick it up on a Steam sale.
That Malkavian Elder thing could have worked too if the rest of the game were there. Or
it could have worked, and it could have shook off the Johnny Silverhand analogy if there was other great stuff there to really give you the handhold to pull yourself past that.
I had no idea about the things you just told me. I assumed, like, no, this game's just going to be sloppy, buggy, terrible in a mundane way. I had no idea they had literally stripped out core gameplay elements and are just not doing them. Like, no frenzy, no humanity system, like, no masquerade breaching issue. Like, none of that? Really? Jesus Christ.
I think masquerade breaches might still be. I don't see that on this. Again,
it's called Vampire the Masquerade. I would hope.
It's also called Bloodlines 2, and there's nothing from Bloodline 1 in there. I don't know, man.
Oh, man. Well,
I am excited to watch what happens with this, and it's possible maybe it's a great game, and people just, we sat there and lauded Cyberpunk and how it was going to revolutionize everything, and it came out to be a big joke, and it took them years to make it into something good.
It wasn't to defend Cyberpunk 2077 at release, because I did play it then, played it all the way through. Sure. Its problem was that because they rushed it to get it done, if you stayed on the tracks of the main story, that experience was very good. It was complete. It was fun. It was engaging. I enjoyed it. What was missing was everything off those rails. And so I just stuck to the rails, having heard that, and had a great experience with it, and only just recently started to go back to it now that the rest of the game is completed. But it wasn't a total like unplayable mess or something. Like, actually the main story stuff worked very well, was very cinematic, was very fun, and I came away from it with a very positive impression. This game isn't even going to have that, right? This game sounds like it is just a crippled remnant of what it used to be, which I guess means it has something in common with modern Star Trek to bring it all the way around.
This game is a slap in the face for everything it was supposed to be. And while you are being insulted with this slapping and spitting in your face, you don't even have an opportunity to really get too mad about that and to care, because they've also already kneed you in the balls with this ridiculous cash grab launch.
Yeah.
It is unfaithful and inappropriate while also being financially abusive and a wretched business practice. And I wish everybody involved in this thing all of the black eyes that they will deserve. It stinks that media's gotten to a point where I can celebrate the failures of things that I love, because it just the best it can do is serve as a warning to other people who might be eyeing something else that was good and becoming ready to financially abuse it and prey on it and the fan bases associated to it.
If anything, Vampire the Masquerade is very good at telling cautionary tales. We'll leave it there.
The best story out of Bloodlines 2 is the business that happened to put out Bloodlines. There is the true world of darkness.
It's out of character. The out of character drama is always the best, Peter. What have we always say?
They're taking cues from Disney. That's all. The good stories in the corporate office.